The year was born in smoke. Across the cities of the Mediterranean, the bells of empire tolled, calling men not to prayer, but to judgment. From the palaces of Rome and the cloisters of Avignon came a new design, to measure faith in fire. They called it the Inquisition. Its architects were bishops and kings who feared that God might love too many kinds of people. They built their altars out of accusation, their censers from the ash of the condemned. In the courts of Pope Gregory IX, the doctrine of purity became law. In the dungeons of Aragon and Castile, confession became currency. By the 13th century, Europe had perfected the machinery of spiritual control, the question, the rack, the pyre, and called it holiness. Before this storm, the land that would one day be Europe had been a tangle of voices. Moorish mathematicians in Granada, Jewish physicians in Cordoba, Christian monks copying Arabic astronomy. But power grows restless in harmony. When Constantine centuries earlier bound the empire to a single creed, he planted the seed of the later fire. He had seen the cross not as salvation, but as a standard, a banner for armies. He dreamed of unity and built uniformity. From that dream came councils, from councils decrees, from decrees inquisitors. Faith became a ledger, and souls' entries in it. By 1084, the empire's heirs were tearing themselves into east and west. In Eurasia, princes warred beneath banners of Christ and crescent, and the bull, the emblem of pride and dominion, lowered its horns once more. Merchants in Venice counted profits from crusade caravans. Preachers in Cluny promised paradise to the armed. Across the steppes, scholars of Samarkand preserved the books that Europe had forgotten. The world was one long caravan of knowledge and fear. In the courts of France and the hills of Jerusalem, orders of knights were sworn to defend the faith, and ended by defending treasure. The Templars rode with crosses on their cloaks and gold under their saddles. They were guardians and bankers, pilgrims and merchants, and when kings grew jealous, they became victims. By 1307, they too were in the Inquisition's chains. Thus the serpent learned to eat its own tail, power devouring power in the name of purity. From these centuries of crusade and heresy came the map that would birth the modern world. When the bull tired of burning villages in Europe, it turned its eyes westward towards seas still unnamed. Scholars of navigation whispered of currents beyond the Pillars of Hercules, of gold and souls awaiting salvation. The serpent, reborn as enterprise, found new scriptures in the language of charter and crown. By the 1400s, the ports of Lisbon and Seville glittered with ambition. Portuguese sailors mapped the African coast, their caravels slicing through Atlantic winds. They said they sought spices. They carried chains. In 1478, the Inquisition was reborn under a new monarch's seal, Ferdinand and Isabella's tribunal to purify Spain. That same year, the first conquistadors trained for their voyages, blending priest and soldier into one creed. Conquest as conversion. Far inland, the ancient libraries of Timbuktu were still breathing. While Europe burned its thinkers, the scholars of Mali copied manuscripts on astronomy, medicine, and faith. They debated ethics under the shade of acacia trees, believing that wisdom was a river, not a weapon. Gold flowed north from the Niger, and with it stories, proverbs, equations, the true wealth of the continent. But the bull had scented that gold. The serpent had measured the horizon and found it profitable. So the ships sailed. They carried banners of the cross, but their holds were filled with ambition. When they reached the islands of the West, they named them for saints and stripped them for sugar. The covenant of love that had once glimmered in scripture became a license of possession. The yam, the root of sustenance and spirit, was uprooted and forced across oceans. Yet even in chains it lived, buried in ship ballast, hidden in the hair of women who refused to forget. The yam traveled, a seed of remembrance. Wherever it took root, it whispered of the covenant, that the earth remembers even when men do not.